Magnus Carlsen is the greatest chess player of all time, and in this video, he plays a legendary king march that will take your breath away. Now, in the game, Magnus is playing as white. He opens 1e4, and we get a Ruy Lopez on the board with 3 bishop b5. Now, from here, black goes a6, bishop a4, and black plays the very interesting idea knight g to e7. Now, this is sometimes called the Aronian variation after Levon Aronian. Black's idea is to go knight g6. That knight will support the e5 pawn, and from there, black can swing out the bishop and short castle. Now, Magnus from here, he breaks in the center immediately with the move d4. And of course, here, black simply takes the pawn on d4, but now instead of knight takes d4, Magnus uncorks a crazy idea. He immediately goes c3, sacrificing a clean pawn. Oh my goodness, now d takes c3, knight takes c3, and yes, Magnus Carlsen is down a clean pawn. However, he does have very dangerous compensation for it. So from here, black goes d6, and now Magnus, he uncorks his crazy idea. That is the move h4. Oh my goodness, Magnus, he wants to go h5, playing against the idea of knight to g6 from black. Of course, there were other ideas, bishop e3, short castle are all good, but instead h4 on the board, Magnus wants to go for the kill shot right away. Now black, bishop g4, very logical move. Of course, the move h4 weakened the g4 square. White can no longer go h3 trying to hit the bishop. So with that in mind, bishop g4, very good. But now Magnus, h5, he is not slowing down. He wants to go for it. Oh boy. Okay, from here, black, queen d7. Perhaps he may want to go long castles in some lines. And now Magnus, once again, he jumps forward with the knight this time, knight to d5. Currently, the knight is not threatening anything. However, when you're playing against Magnus Carlsen, literally the best player of all time, and he jumps forward with the knight to the d5 square, it's natural if you start to freak out at least a little bit. Now, from here, black decides to take the knight. It was not necessary, but that's what he does. Knight takes, e takes. And now, of course, the knight is pinned to the queen, so the only move here is b5, breaking the pin, and now both the bishop and the knight are hanging. So Magnus, what does he do? He takes the knight on c6, d takes c6, and of course, if black took back on the c6 square, then Magnus just swings back his bishop with a winning game. So instead of that, queen e6 on the board. Of course, the idea is to gain a tempo on the king on the e1 square, and then take the bishop on a4. And as promised, here is where Magnus Carlsen's legendary king march starts. He goes king to d2. Oh my goodness, that is not what I would do here. Here, instead, king f1 looks like the logical move if you're literally anybody but Magnus Carlsen. However, Magnus Carlsen literally is Magnus Carlsen, which means he can get away with a move like king to d2 here. And of course, Magnus is not done. Queen d5 check, king e3, queen e6 check. Oh my goodness, king to f4. I am simply speechless with this move right now. Who the heck does Magnus Carlsen think he is in this game? Now black, queen f5, king f3. Oh my goodness, the king march in this game. I am going to lose it. Now, believe it or not, black's best idea in this position is to go bishop takes f3 and liquidate into an endgame. For example, bishop takes, king takes. And then, yes, Magnus does lose the bishop, but here Magnus still has a very significant advantage in the endgame. However, that is not what we have in the game. Instead, in this position, after the crazy king march from Magnus, here black makes the critical mistake and he takes the bishop on a4. Now, there's a very simple problem with this move. Rook e1 check, hitting the king d8, and now the decisive move, queen to e2. Oh my goodness, here Magnus is simply threatening queen e8 check. I mean, you can't block it with bishop e7, then the queen takes the bishop. And if the king moves to c8, all the same, queen e8 checkmate. This pawn on c6 blocks off the b7 square. Oh no, what is black supposed to do? In the game, he goes queen e6. Very good move, offering the trade of queens, but Magnus Carlsen refuses. Instead, he simply starts bishop g5, hitting the king with the bishop. Now black moves the king back to c8, but now the brilliant move from Magnus Carlsen, the cherry on top of this king march cake. He plays the move queen to c4. Oh my goodness, here in this position, if black takes the queen, you just go rook e8 checkmate. So that's not an option, but what else is black supposed to do? Here, the best move, believe it or not, is actually d5, but then you simply take the bishop on g4, and once again, if black is dumb enough to go queen takes g4, winning the queen, then rook e8 is checkmate. Black is simply out of options, and that's why in this position on move 20, after queen to c4 from Magnus Carlsen, black simply resigns on the spot. Oh my goodness, what a game by Magnus Carlsen, busting out a legendary king march. Now, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and check out my Magnus Carlsen playlist, and I will see you in the next video.